Tennessee at Alabama. Third Saturday in October. Alabama favored by, wait for it, 8.5 in Tuscaloosa. 3:30 Eastern, CBS. Listen, enjoy that CBS theme now. Enjoy the SEC on CBS theme, because pretty soon now, it's going to be like toothpaste and orange juice when we get it with the Big Ten. I love the Big Ten, but just this is, you know what I'm saying, the da-na-na-na-na-na. Like, I don't have that jingle going on when I'm watching Indiana and Penn State. Regardless, I digress. For Tennessee, man, if you beat Alabama 2 years in a row, that would be one of those answers to the question, when did it all change at Tennessee? Hey, when was that moment where Tennessee sort of solidified themselves as one of those consistently top-tier teams in the SEC? Maybe they're not winning the SEC every year. Maybe they're not consistently showing up in Atlanta. But you take down Saban in back-to-back years. If you're Josh Heupel, that would be hey, this is when the river ran the other way for Tennessee. This is when things started going our way in Knoxville, is I think the feeling. So a game like this, you did it in Neyland last year. You threw the goalposts in the river. Turns out they don't float, and you love it. You stormed the field. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a 2-day just recovery period in Knoxville after what happened last year in Neyland. You go to Tuscaloosa and do it now. That's a whole new deal. And I can't wait to watch it. We'll talk about Bama in a second here. Make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. If you love college football as much as us, then you appreciate a show that talks about college football in the way that you want to talk about it, breaks down the games, gives you analysis, no agendas, no extra stuff added in. It's ball and only ball right here. All right, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss a minute of what we got going on right here at the On3 YouTube channel via the hard count. All right? Appreciate y'all in advance for being dialed in. For Alabama, man, they remember last year too. Like all the memories that Tennessee has of last year, they have the inverse memory of that. They remember the field being stormed and trying to find their way off Neyland. They remember all the things said about their defense, all the things said about how they couldn't do it with this talented team that Nick Saban had a season ago. Like, they remember all that was said, and this is their take it back kind of game. This is their game where they take back what they believe is theirs. Okay? A lot of narrative around Alabama, a lot of narrative around how they're not as good as previous teams. That's fine. Let everybody else talk. Let everybody else say what they want to say. For Alabama, they're ready to go prove it on the field in a game like this. So I will say this too. Alabama kind of been trending for a little bit here towards finding their footing. And we say it every single week, like, hey, Alabama, was it perfect? No, but they found a way to win and they got their footing and they survived in advance another week to figure it out. If you beat Tennessee, to me, it would feel a lot like that's the spark that sets off what the rest of their season could be. So I can't wait to watch it. We're going to break it down right now. Big question I have in this game, man, and probably a big question you have. Can Tennessee move the line of scrimmage on offense like they did last week against A&M? Because I sat right here in this chair this exact same time a week ago, and I said A&M, they got one of the best rush defenses in the country. They're allowing less than 3 yards a carry. Give me A&M. Sat here on Sunday, told y'all I was wrong, and I have that same question this week now. Can Tennessee do what they did last week to Alabama? Because they ran for right around 4.7 yards a carry against A&M. I promise you that will be more than good enough against Alabama should they get that kind of number. But the reason why it's so critical for them to have that kind of movement up front and to run the ball that way, it makes Joe Milton's job easier. Like for Joe Milton, if you're able to run the football, it makes for less pressure from the Alabama defense. You can't dial up a blitz if you're getting gashed in the run game. You got to play honest. You got to play gap sound. And then also it makes for an easier picture. Same thing I said about dialing up pressure is true about disguising coverage. You can't be too tricky when you're getting the ball run down your throat. And so if you're Joe Milton, you can sit back there, you can sit back there, survey the field, make the right throw, and just have a simplistic picture to look at. Now, very, very critical, I also say this, he still has to make the right throw. He still has to execute because we saw him against Florida on the road, and there were some intermediate throws he just was not connecting on. That cannot be the case against Alabama. Now, Alabama, they're top 10 in the country in terms of yards per carry allowed. So this is going to be rock versus hard place, immovable object meets unstoppable force. But I can't wait to watch it because if Alabama can take away the run game from Tennessee or at least minimize it, You put the game back on Joe Milton. And I'm not saying Joe Milton couldn't do it. I'm just saying we haven't seen him do it to this point in the season. All right? So that would be a way that Alabama would like to live. I think to beat Alabama, if you're Tennessee, you have to be balanced. Have to be balanced. If you're going to be able to just sit back there and know that Tennessee can't run the football if you're Alabama, or is not able to consistently run the football if you're Alabama, then you can get after the quarterback, and then you can start to dial it up and make things uncomfortable for Joe Milton. A very, very key piece of this is Tennessee and the way they run the football. In addition to that, the tempo they're able to go with. Because we've seen this now for Tennessee. Big run for Tennessee. They're back to the line in like less than 20 seconds, going NASCAR fast, and you put the defense on their heels. You keep that personnel trapped on the field. You wear them out. You run them down. It's a thing that kind of just builds on itself, right? For Tennessee, running the ball is where it all starts. Got more thoughts on the way that offense builds on itself here in just a second. Now for Alabama, the big question I have, can they live in third and manageable? Can they live in third and manageable? It's a very big question I have, because keeping second and third level of this Tennessee defense guessing is going to be the end-all, be-all for me. Now, what this requires from Jalen Milroe is being efficient in the pass game. He's been that for the majority of the season. He wasn't really that way against Texas, wasn't really that way this past weekend against Arkansas. And then also, I need probably 3.5 to 4 yards a carry from Alabama, more than likely coming from Jace McClellan. What that would do, again, sets you up with 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3. Also opens up that deep shot downfield if you're Alabama. Jalen Milroe has shown if he's got a couple skills in the bag, one of his favorite is the driver. Popping a deep shot to Kobe Prentice or Isaiah Bond or Jermaine Burton, we've seen him do that consistently and seen him do that effectively. Something to watch for in this one, if they get into 3rd and long, 3rd and passing, if you will, Tennessee has a really good pass rush. They're right around, I believe, like 10% sack rate right now, which is good for top 15 in the country. Alabama has been really bad at protecting Jalen Milroe. Like, it's an offensive line that's still coming together. I think they're finding their footing when it comes to running the football. But if they can't protect Jalen Milroe consistently, then this whole conversation is just a no to being able to live in third and manageable. You don't get to do that. And then you put the game back on Jalen Milroe. In addition to that, you also get to dial up pressure if you're Tennessee. Same thing we talked about with Alabama and Joe Milton. You live that story if you're Tennessee, if you're able to take them out of third and manageable. Now, something to watch for. On top of that, Jalen Milroe, how does he handle pressure on the early downs? Not talking about third down, I'm talking about early downs when Tennessee dials it up and they stick true to their identity and they try and get after the passer. How does he handle that? Because I think there's a kind of a boom or bust situation that could play out here. One, the boom for Alabama could be he throws out of it. And that could be the big play. Like, you see pressure coming from that second level, you get it out to Isaiah Bond, get it out to whatever playmaker you want to insert there. Big play happening because some real estate was left from where that blitzer just came from. So that would require him to see it right away, get the ball out, great throw, on time, on the money, we're off to the races. Another situation here, a little bit less of a reward for Alabama, but kind of a staying alive. If you bring pressure and Jalen Milroe escapes, churns and burns, gets upfield, maybe not a big play, I suppose it could be, but probably a first down. Tennessee, you like to avoid that. You got to get home. And if you can't, like, that's the luxury of having Jalen Milroe as your quarterback if you're Alabama. That's why you made number 4 your guy, is because he can make special plays when the play breaks down and when you try and dial it up against him. So there's that. Now, the worst case scenario for Bama and the best case scenario for Tennessee is you dial up some pressure for Tennessee, you get home and you force, I guess, at best for Tennessee, a turnover. At worst, you force a long passing down, which would then go back to that situation we just said Alabama does not want to be in. I think something to also watch for, a lot of things to watch for in this game. Another battle that I'm watching, probably one of the more key scenarios, the battle on the perimeter from Alabama secondary against the Tennessee wide receiving corps. Now, the big caveat here, obviously, is Joe Milton's got to hit his passes. He's got to be dialed in. He's got to be efficient. That's all. I mean, that's all true. But I think for Tennessee, we said a lot about this receiving corps in the offseason. I think we're still a little bit waiting for them to find their footing completely this season. And for Alabama, there was a lot made about the Alabama secondary after the Texas game. Hey, they've had issues the last couple of years. Hey, they're not really playing to the Bama standard. Like, a lot said about them. Terry and Arnold heard that. Kool-Aid McKinstry heard that. Caleb Downs heard that. Since that game, they've really played a totally different brand of football. Allowing less than 200 yards passing a game is Alabama against some good offenses. Ole Miss being one of them. For Alabama, if you can swarm to the football, especially on those horizontal passes, that's going to really set things up for Tennessee and force them into negative situations. Now, for Tennessee, like I said, the horizontal element is crucial. If they can hit some passes out the edge to Squirrel White or whoever you want to insert there and get upfield, that's going to create some movement within that Alabama defense. It's going to create some flow and some rhythm, and then the vertical element opens up. So it's horizontal into vertical. We mentioned this Tennessee offense wanting to create rhythm. It starts with those little plays, the run game, the horizontal passes, going into the big plays. So it all goes back to, can Joe Milton deliver? That's absolutely true, but I think Alabama being able to play those effectively and honestly, not getting caught with the horizontal approach and then having a vertical pass behind them is going to be a very, very big deal in this game. So here's my pick in this one. Here's my feel. I think Alabama is finding their stride. I think what we've seen from them the last couple of weeks is real. Hasn't been perfect, but it's been a steady build, a slow trajectory they're kind of putting themselves on. And I worry about Joe Milton. I worry about number 7. Tons of ability. We've seen him be really good. The Orange Bowl is kind of that snapshot that lives in my mind of, hey, okay, I think Joe Milton can do it. Hasn't done it consistently just yet. They're going on the road. Last time we saw them in a true road game was in the Swamp. I'm not saying Bryant-Denny's the Swamp, but I'm saying we had not seen them be efficient just yet on the road to this point. So if Joe Milton goes out and dices Alabama up, I think it's a possible scenario. It would be the first time this year we've seen him do that in terms of being super consistent throwing the ball downfield. It's possible, but I'm not picking it to happen. I think Alabama wins a close one. I think they get revenge in this one. I think it's low scoring. I got Bama winning 27-23 at home. Now, if Alabama does that, I think at that point in time you say, okay, this is who Bama is. They're going to be a team that kind of finds a way to win imperfectly. They're not Bama of old where they just blow you out or they just, control the line of scrimmage 100% of the time. Like, they just kind of find their way to keep on scratching and clawing and kind of a scrappy Alabama team. So I don't feel great about the spread for either side, to be honest, but we'll take Tennessee to cover. We'll take Alabama to win. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.